Welcome back, and joining me now is Independent Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont. Senator Sanders, welcome back to Meet the Press.
My pleasure.
Well, it's great to have you here. I do want to dive in by talking about the economy, likely to be one of the big topics at Tuesday night's debate. This week, of course, as you know, Vice President Kamala Harris unveiled more of her economic policies, which included a 28% capital gains tax for top earners. It really marks a big break from President Biden, who has proposed a 40% tax on top earners. Of course, when you were running for president, you proposed a near 60% tax on top income earners. Do you believe that this particular policy position is a mistake by Vice President Harris?
Well, look, this is what I believe, Kristen. We live in a nation today that has more income and wealth inequality than has ever existed in the history of the United States. People on top, the billionaire class, doing phenomenally well. 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Gap between the rich and the poor growing wider. What I believe is that we got to take on the greed of the billionaire class and say, yes, you know what, guys? When we got 600,000 people sleeping out on the streets, when people can't afford to send their kids to college, you know what? You're going to start paying your fair share of taxes. So I think dealing with the massive level of income and wealth inequality through a progressive tax system is exactly what we've got to do.
So do you believe that 28% is enough, or should she come up? Should she boost that number?
I would go higher than that. Look, when you got three people on top owning more wealth than the bottom half of American society, and when billionaires pay an effective tax rate lower than truck drivers or nurses, yeah, you could substantially raise taxes on the billionaire class and the people on top. But, Kristen, it's not only the need for real progressive tax reform. What we have got to address is that while there have been important gains economically under President Biden and Vice President Harris, much more needs to be done. People cannot afford the high cost of health care. Elderly people can't afford dental care despite being on Medicare. So I think what the Vice President needs is a strong agenda that speaks to working people, that says, you know what? At a time of so much inequality, we are on the side of working families, and we're prepared to take on the big money interests who today have so much political and economic power in our country.
Well, let me ask you about some of her ties to big business. Top Silicon Valley companies and big name venture capitalists have reportedly been in close communication with the Harris campaign. I'm talking about Mark Cuban, LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman. From a practical standpoint, a lot of her supporters argue those ties might make sense. She's been accused of being too liberal, for example, by Republicans. Are you concerned at all about the ties to those big names, those top earners?
Well, Kristen, what you're really touching on is maybe the most important issue. And that is, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent, you should be concerned about the impact of the disastrous Supreme Court decision on Citizens United that today allows billionaires, whether they're Elon Musk and the Republicans or whether they are Democratic billionaires, to play a very, very outsized role in the political process. Look, you have one vote. The average American has one vote, but billionaires can start a super PAC and put hundreds of millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars into defeating the people they don't like and supporting the people they do like. That is not democracy. That is oligarchy. And I would hope that every American, regardless of your political persuasion, says we got to get rid of the Citizens United and return to a nation where one person has one vote, and that's democracy, not billionaires buying elections. If your question is, am I concerned about billionaire influence over the Democratic Party? I surely am, just as I am over the Republican Party.
Let me zoom out a little bit. You have described Vice President Kamala Harris as a progressive. She has previously supported Medicare for all. Now she does not. She's previously supported a ban on fracking. Now she does not. These, Senator, are ideas that you have campaigned on. Do you think that she is abandoning her progressive ideals?
No, I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic and doing what she thinks is right in order to win the election. My own view is slightly different. I think that in America today, there are a lot of people, rural people, working class people, who no longer believe that the United States Congress and government represents their interests, too dominated by big money interests. So I think that there is something wrong, personally, when we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all of our people, despite spending twice as much per capita. That is why I support Medicare for all. She does not. She has another approach toward moving toward universal health care. But again, I think on issues like expanding Medicare, by expanding Social Security and lifting the cap on taxable income that the rich put in so we can raise Social Security benefits, the need to raise the minimum wage from a starvation 7.25 minimum wage to a living wage. I think if you campaign on those issues, raising taxes on billionaires, you know what? She's going to win, and I think she could win big.
Well, let me just ask you then, big picture, do you still consider Vice President Kamala Harris to be progressive, Senator?
I do. Look, she is not where I am. But I think, for example, when she talks about making the child tax credit permanent, and, you know, we did that in the American Rescue Plan. We lowered childhood poverty by 40%. Kristen, we should not have, as the richest country on earth, one of the highest rates of childhood poverty in the world. When she talks about building 3 million units of affordable housing, that's a big deal because we have a major housing crisis in America. You know, when she talks about passing the PRO Act to make it easier for workers to join unions, that's a big deal because we have to expand the union movement so the workers get decent wages. So yes, her views are not mine, but I do consider her progressive.
Senator, before I let you go, I do have to ask you about her recent endorsements by two people who are not progressives at all. Of course, I'm talking about Dick and Liz Cheney. This week, they said they're going to support her. They're going to vote for her. It's worth noting, former Congresswoman Liz Cheney voted with former President Trump more than 90% of the time, was quite critical when President Biden picked her as his running mate. Would you welcome seeing Liz Cheney out on the campaign trail?
Well, Kristen, what I think Dick and Liz Cheney are saying is that in this existential moment in American history, it's not just issues. Cheney and I agree on nothing, no issues. But what we do believe in is that the United States should retain its democratic foundations. And it's not just Cheney. I think there is a significant number of Republicans who say, well, you know, I may not agree with the vice president on this issue or that issue, but I cannot support somebody who's a pathological liar, somebody who fomented a insurrection to overthrow the election return. So I applaud the Cheneys for their courage in defending democracy. Obviously, on all the issues, we have very different points of view.
All right, Senator Bernie Sanders, we covered a lot of ground. Thank you so much for being here on this Sunday. We appreciate it. And when we
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.